Just a few reminders when we get started here. If you're not speaking, if you could please mute your line, but please don't mute my FSSA line. That makes us really sad. And when we get to public comment, you can shoot a message in the chat box. You are welcome to raise your hand. If we have people in the room, we'll address that at that time. So don't worry, we will make sure that we capture you during public comment. I will kind of help drive the agenda and defer to Ms. Lugo as we move through. I believe that's all the reminders I've got for this morning. And so let's go ahead and get started then, now that we are at a quorum. All right, Ms. Lugo, I will turn it over to you for the call to order and opening comments.
Morning, everybody. Call the meeting to order. I do not have any opening comments today.
All right, the next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes.
Can I get a motion, please, to approve the minutes or any changes that need to be made?
This is Carol. I'm going to approve.
This is Wendy. I'll second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second, so I will go ahead and go through our voting then. I just want to do a quick check and make sure I didn't have somebody else join on me. All right, so Ms. Lugo.
Approve.
Dr. Holdershorn.
Approve.
Dr. Knapp.
Approve.
Dr. Ott.
Approve.
And Dr. Powell.
Approve.
All right, then we had all approved, so that motion will carry. Thank you. Our next item then on the agenda is the utilization edit recommendations. There is a new product, Igalmi, that is available. It comes in a film. It's administered just in a practitioner setting, usually for an acute, it should be for an acute issue at that time. They're given 2 films, and it's 2 films a maximum in 30 days. Any questions or comments on Igalmi? If not, if I could get a motion and a second to approve those changes, please.
So moved. This is Wendy.
I'll second. This is Carol.
All right, I have a motion and a second, so Ms. Lugo.
Aye.
Dr. Holdershorn.
Aye.
Dr. Knapp.
Aye.
Dr. Ott.
Aye.
And Dr. Powell.
Aye.
All right, we have all ayes, so that motion will carry. Thank you. Next then item is our PA stats. So here's the overall stats that we had for the first quarter of 2024. You might have noticed we did update the point of sale quick check, which was formerly silent auth. It's not a name any of us like. It's what we've got to work with now. So we weren't asked. So silent auth is kind of, we're not calling it that anymore. Point of sale quick check, or maybe POSQC. All of them are a mouthful. So if I divert back to silent auth, you'll know what I mean. Yeah. So overall, you can see our totals there. I think the trending graph is a little more helpful to review. So we'll move kind of onto that one. So you can see really pretty steady in our trending overall. So just a reminder, the bars are there for the kind of total PAs and then volume for those different agents. So the antipsychotics are in the green, the SSRIs, SNRIs are in the orange, and then duplicate stimulants in the purplish color, and then in the pink is the duplicate said hypnotic benzos, and then the blue is overall totals. And then the line chart is there for the kind of approval rate or the approval line. So fairly steady from really for several times. The SSRI, SNRI did have a bump up a little while back, but it's definitely kind of steadied out. So no real big changes there. We are still seeing stimulant shortages, so that is still something that we see a lot in our approvals. If we look at our antipsychotics and their age, so this was their age as of 4/1 of this year, you can see the vast majority of our members are falling in that 18 to 64 years, just 370 in the greater than 6 or equal to 65, and then much smaller numbers in the 6 to 12 and 13 to 17. Nobody under 3 years, and then 31 individuals in the 3 to 5. So the vast majority of the patients are in the age range that we would kind of like them to be in. When we look at the stimulant age range, also kind of the same thing in the age range that we like to see. So nobody under 3, 3 to 5, we have 90, and then the vast majority of our patients fall in that 6 to 14 or 15 to 24. And then we start to go back down once we get to the 25 to 49. Any questions on any of that before I move into the adherence? All right. So for fee-for-service on adherence, really pretty good. And I think you'll see overall it's really pretty good on the managed care side too, when they go through their adherence data as well. So our depression is right around 88.1%. It did decrease just slightly, as well as the psychosis, so the antipsychotic agents at 89.3. It also decreased just a little bit slightly from the previous measure. But overall, really pretty good adherence percentage. And then when we look at our PA stats related to addiction, so overall you can see the buprenorphine paid claims. The one at the top in the purplish color is the buprenorphine naloxone, so that's where the vast majority of our patients are at. It does fluctuate a little bit and go up and down, but overall it had been trending up, so I think that's positive. It did come down a little bit over this last quarter and level out. The buprenorphine alone is kind of the green color, so fairly steady in that group. It did have a little bit of a blip and then kind of came back down. And then the buprenorphine LAI, or the long-acting injectable, is still hanging right about the same with what it has been. When we look at unique members, we did again kind of trend up on unique members, and that's kind of leveled back off again a little bit in the buprenorphine naloxone. And then unique prescribers has also kind of maintained relatively the same. Trended up a little bit early on. And then for our PA requests, these can kind of be a little all over the place depending on the month. So you can see the totals kind of up at the top in the purplish color, and then the denials is in the orange, and the approvals are in the green. A lot of times when we have requests for these, it has to do with a non-preferred agent that they're requesting. So most of the time they're able to just switch to a preferred and it's not a concern. But we do have some approvals that we push through, and the long-acting injectables, we do have a preferred, but it does have a PA that's required. So those are reviewed, and I don't know that I've seen any denials come through for our preferred agent at this point since I looked at that, but not a lot of requests there. Any questions on any of that? Any of those stats that we went over? Or comments? All right. I will move it along then to our managed care pharmacy updates. Brian, since you asked for a mic check, am I to assume you are the lucky chosen one?
Yes, horrible voice included. I apologize up front for my voice. I got the allergies and just a creeping crud, but it sounds horrible, but I feel fine. So this is the first time that we're reporting this collectively for the MCOs. I just want to point that out. So this is sort of like our baseline, our beginning point. We'll continue to refine and work our way through how we're reporting this and calculating it. But overall, we didn't feel like this was bad results for the MCEs. This first one you're looking at here, and similar to fee-for-service, we're using the proportion of days covered, the PDC, to calculate this rate. So you've got, this is calendar year 23, all encompassed on the first pass. So you see MDYs, Anthem, MHS, and CareSource on this HIP slide for the antipsychotics. Similar results. So far, we think that the CareSource smaller number is related to their population, but we'll continue to watch that as we move forward. Next slide, please. This is the Hoosier Care Connect population. You don't see CareSource or MDYs on this slide, but again, consistent numbers, decent numbers here related to the antipsychotics for the Hoosier Care Connect. And then the next slide is the Hoosier HealthWise population. And again, good numbers overall. We'll continue to watch these. Probably more important to see how they change over time, but this is sort of our beginning to take a look at the process and see how we're doing. So, any questions on any of those? Those are the antipsychotics. The next set is the antidepressants. So here's the antidepressants for hip. Again, similar type of coverage, decent numbers. And again, we'll continue to refine these as we move forward. Next up is the Hoosier Care Connect. And last but not least, the children, again, the Hoosier Healthwise on the antidepressants. So overall, as a baseline, pretty decent numbers for all the NCEs. I think we were all fairly surprised that they were as high as they were, and we'll continue to watch it. Questions about those? All right. Next up is the combined buprenorphine slides. This first one is the buprenorphine claims across the MCOs. A couple of things I wanted to point out here. Overall, no surprises. On the claim slide, you can see that the second line there, the sublingual buprenorphine naloxone tablets, continues to be the lion's share, sort of the workhorse for all the MCEs. And then at the bottom two lines, the Brixadi and Sublocade, with the change on the SUPDL, we're beginning to see some utilization of those two product lines, both of which require a PA. The Sublocade is the preferred product, and you can clearly see that here. And when we get to the PA slides, you'll see the impact of those as well. Next slide is the unique members. And not a lot of change here from prior quarter to this quarter. I will point out the small slivers of the Sublocade, the black pieces in this on this slide, just beginning to show up in terms of members. Again, I'll go to the next one, which is the prescribers. In the black sliver, you begin to see those injectable products start to show up in that fourth quarter across the MCOs, and you see that swing, but again, not a lot of change here except for that. And then last but not least is the PA requests, and you can clearly see the dark mode of these bars where the injectable products are requiring those PAs pretty much across the board. So any questions about the buprenorphine slides? Okay, Amanda.
All right, thank you, Brian.
You're welcome. Sorry for my voice, folks.
Well, I'm glad you at least feel okay. All right, I will turn it over then to Amy Berger with Anthem for her report. Amy.
Thank you, Amanda. As mentioned, my name is Amy Berger, and I am here to present Anthem's prior authorization stats. So per usual, this first slide is just the slide that provides our actual numbers, but it is on the next slide that we will focus on the trends that we see. So similar to mentioned with fee for service, everything looks pretty consistent from Q4 to Q1, so nothing really to call out here. Are there any questions on our PA stats before we move to our next slide? All right. And then we will hop over to our utilization by age. And again here, similar to what was mentioned for fee for service here on our antipsychotics, kind of as expected, the great majority of that utilization does fall in that 18 to 64-year-old range. But as we move to the stimulants on the next slide, here we see a little bit different utilization than called out by fee for service. Here we see the great majority of the utilization in the kiddos, those kind of early school agers, ages 6 to 14. And then again, we still see some pretty decent utilization in the 15 to 24, but it jumps then from the 25 to 49. And that aligns with kind of that growing trend and that utilization that we see in adults, especially as they enter or settle into the workforce. So nothing of surprise here. Are there any questions? All right, hearing none. Happy Thursday.
Thanks, Amy. I will then turn it over to Beth. Are you handling care sources today?
I am. Can you hear me? I just
I
double
can,
checked.
yes.
Excellent.
Welcome.
Mic check. Great. Thanks, everybody. Again, just following suit behind Anthem. This is our table with our data in it. But Amanda, if you can move to the next slide for me. And then you can look at our prior authorization trends. Just to remind the committee that when CareSource came to the market in 2017, our duplicate therapy edits that were put into place were what we call soft edits, where they could be overridden at point of service by the pharmacist. Last August, we actually discovered with our work with OMPP that we needed to put in hard edits. So those edits were put into place. But everything, we're not seeing anything that concerns us with our PA volume or approval rates. Next slide. Now we're going to talk about age. This isn't what we hope to see with having 11 youngsters under the age of 3 on antipsychotics. We are working with our BH medical director, our psychiatrist who works for us in CareSource, and our care management team. And we have all the data pulled to look at diagnosis codes, what's going on, how the medications are being used, care management, et cetera. So we are attending to this, but we don't like to see anybody under the age of 3, of course, unless there's some unique appropriate use. The majority of our members on antipsychotics are falling into that 18 to 64 year range. Next slide, Amanda. Stimulants. We're seeing kind of just like what Amy was talking about with the 6 to 14-year-olds dropping down a little bit in that high school and then back up in the workforce range. And we do have our one kiddo under 3 that we've been investigating and attending to through our care management program. Next, I think, yep, that's it for me. Thank you.
Any questions? Thanks, Beth. All right, next up we have MHS then, and Farhan is presenting today.
Hey, good morning. Farhan Hassan. Here are our stats for Q1 for MHS. Pretty consistent and similar to Q4 of 2023. If we can move to the next slide. Looking at our trends, pretty consistent and same as Q4. The only difference is the ADHD medications. Beginning of the year, or Q4, we had a lot more as school started, and there was a lot of switching back and forth, but that settled down, so that decreased, and therefore the overall also decreased a little bit, but otherwise pretty much the same. If we move on to the antipsychotic age review, again, same with CareSource and Anthem. Primarily, majority of the population is on the 18 to 64-year-old. So yeah, that's good. And then next one for stimulant age review, again, similar to the other MCs, we have primarily 6 to 14-year-olds, and then same again, the second highest being the 25 to 49-year-olds. Any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you. And next up, we'll have Marissa Mattingly with MDWise. Marissa?
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So this first slide, we have our PA volume and approval rates for each mental health category, drug category, and then overall. You'll notice there really hasn't been much change in any category in the past several quarters. We haven't had much criteria changes or anything. Overall, claims are down just slightly from 2 quarters ago. It's most likely just due to changes in membership with redeterminations. On the next slide, we'll get into the age review. First, we have antipsychotics by age group. We had the most in the 25 to 49-year-olds. And it's not on this slide, but we actually didn't have any claims for members less than 3 years of age, which is good. And on the next slide, we're looking at stimulants, like the other MCs. We had the most in the 6 to 14-year-old group. You will see 3 claims for members under 3 years of age. That's as of January 1st, so we had to make the age cutoff at January 1st. But looking into these, one of the claims was actually for guanfacine, which doesn't actually have an age limit. And then the other 2 claims were for a single member that just happened to turn 3 right after the first of the year. So they actually didn't end up filling a stimulant until after they turned 3. So it's a little misleading, but we had to make the cutoff somewhere. So, and then the other thing to know is just the second highest category is that 25 to 49-year-old age group, kind of similar to the other MCs. Does anyone have any questions about our PA volume or ages?
All right, thanks, Marissa.
Thanks.
And then we have Monica Blankenship up for UHC. Monica.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Like the others, this is our overview slide with our claims information and our PA approval rates. But if you would like to go to the next slide, this shows you a better graphic representation. Ours looks a little more unsteady, but our volume is so low that you just see a little more volatility. Really, the one that we noticed most was our stimulants that shot up a little bit at the end of 2023. A lot of that was due to people changing medications, hitting that duplicate therapy because of the shortages, but it's starting to come back down. So it looks a little more crazy than it is, and we look at those very closely. So no concerns. Next slide is our antipsychotics. We also did our age from 1/1/24, so you might see a couple that fall into the age category lower. We have 2 members, so 1 under 3 and 1 in that 3 to 5 year age that are younger than what the board has set for age limits, but both those members, we're working with care management and our providers to make sure that that's appropriate care and monitoring them. So looking at those very closely. So one of those falls into the 3 to 5 age and they're on aripiprazole. So looking at both of those very closely. So not concerned about that. And then the majority of our antipsychotic use is in that 18 to 64. And then our stimulants, no concerns here. Majority of our use within the 6 to 14 years. We have no concerns about any of our members' use within these groups using it appropriately. So I think we're good there. Any questions? Awesome, thank you.
Thanks, Monica. All right, so before we get to new business, the next item on the agenda is a wards and fosters guideline update or development update. So either Anne or Dr. Holdershorn, whoever wants to go.
At our last meeting, I did let everybody know that the guideline had been updated on the website, so that is available. But I don't have anything else to know.
Thank you. There's a standing agenda item for concurrent use of opiates and benzodiazepines. I have nothing to add for here right now. We have edits in place that we're working on that are part of that, but any other comments from anybody on the committee? All right, next up we have public comment. So if you wish to provide public comment, you can shoot a message in the chat box or raise your hand. I think it's all often people in the audience today, so I don't know that they have any public comment. All right, I am seeing and hearing none, so we will move on from that. Any old business for the committee? Also hearing none. So new business, I do have some new business to go over and then we'll catch the agenda. And then does the committee have any new business they would like to discuss before I discuss mine? I'll give you another opportunity though, in case something triggers your thought process when we're going through new business. All right. So with the addition of the AGALMI, we wanted to add PA criteria for that. So they must meet all of the following: a diagnosis of bipolar 1 or 2 disorder or schizophrenia. They need to be 18 years of age or older. And then the prescriber is going to attest that the member is currently on or will be maintained on maintenance psychotropic therapy, and that it will be administered under the supervision of a healthcare provider. And then we already discussed the dose, but it's 2 sublingual films that are given per 30-day period. For the narcolepsy agents PA, there was an update to the PA to clarify some of the verbiage around the compendia support on the indications throughout. And then for WAKIX, updating the PA criteria to include obstructive sleep apnea, hypopnea syndrome with residual excessive daytime sleepiness in conjunction with appropriate medical interventions, and one of the following. So either they've trialed and failed armodafinil or modafinil, or the prescriber has provided medical justification for use of WAKIX over armodafinil or modafinil. And I think that's all I've got for new business today. Any questions on either of those? If not, if I could have a motion and a second to approve those items, please.
This
Hi,
is
this is
Carol.
Wendy.
To approve.
Okay, and I'll second then.
Sorry, Wendy.
You're so fast.
All right, so I have a motion and a second. So Ms. Lugo.
Aye.
And I saw the note that Dr. Andreessen made it. So Dr. Andreessen?
Aye.
Thank you. And Dr. Holvershorn?
Aye.
Dr. Knapp? And Dr. Opp?
Aye.
And Dr. Powell?
Aye.
All right, we have all ayes, so that is approved. Any other new business aside from the agenda? All right, any new agenda items that we need to add or want to discuss for the next meeting?
Can I ask a quick question about AGALMI?
Yes.
So I see it's medication administered under the supervision of a healthcare provider. But if they're going to the pharmacy to get it filled, how are we gonna make sure that happens?
It's a good question. I mean, at that point, the prescriber is going to attest to it, so we hope that that's.
This probably shouldn't ever be on.
And my guess is that they may have it shipped directly to the prescriber too, or sent directly to the prescriber.
It may be that, yeah. I would not, that should not be picked up by a patient.
Okay, is there a REMS program attached?
That's what I.
Sorry, this is the first time I've heard of the drug.
Yeah.
So normally, you know, they have dexmedetomidine, I can't talk today, used for like sedation.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, only in hospital settings or inpatient, but I am not sure if they've got, yeah, she's not seeing a REMS, so, but I'm not sure what their shipping program is like either, if they have like a requirement.
Is it specialty? Is that specialty?
That's what
That's what I'm looking right now. Hopefully it's specialty.
Available, drop ship. Retail, but it also comes in a package of 10.
Super.
Yeah, so you're ordering it 2 at a time.
There you go. Anybody on the committee have any experience with the AGALMI yet?
Eskenazi using this at all?
I have not heard it used Eskenazi. It hasn't come up in our site P&T.
I don't know why my screen just went out, so apologies, it's fussing. Okay, well, we can do some more digging into it though and see what we find. We can also reach out to the manufacturer and see what they've got around the shipping and administration, but they're gonna have to have something around that.
I think our intent was to make it available for e-kids.
Yeah.
So she's saying kids at like the nursing home, like emergency kits?
Emergency kits.
You're really gonna pay $1,000 for it?
You'd be surprised.
I mean, so I used to work long-term care and those kids had a lot of money in them.
Yeah.
For sure. So if they're in that situation, they
Why is the
might,
pharmacy's the one that?
especially considering that
Takes the
it's
cost.
sublingual and it's not an injection, and especially long-term care nurses are, anytime they can get something oral and not have to inject it, they're the likely, yeah.
Okay. Sorry for being in operations.
No,
No, you're fine. I should know. Usually we do know if it's coming out, like by a certain shipment, but I haven't heard with this particular product.
We can do marketing.
Yeah, we'll get back to you on that. Any other questions or items for the agenda? And make sure Agami comes back as an old business item. All right, I'm hearing none. So that would then take us to our last item on the agenda, which is adjournment.
we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody, so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a great day and weekend.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.